Far too short in Canada, and this has been a unique one to say the least, but we're trying to make the most of it. You see people out in patios, still doing the social distance, trying to enjoy themselves and trying to put a little money into the local economy through their restaurants. Well, it's still a very tough sector to operate in. We have the Canadian Chamber of Commerce warning that 60% of restaurants could permanently close in the next 3 months. So now we're seeing a coalition of CEOs from this space get together, trying to encourage people and the government keep these businesses alive. The campaign is called Our Restaurants. Paul Goddard is the CEO of Pizza, and he is a member of this push and effort. Paul, thanks for joining us, and let's start right there. What do we need from the Canadian public? What do we need from the government to ensure we don't see this worst case number from the chamber, the 60% of restaurants closing?
Right. Thanks, Greg, and thanks for having me. Certainly, it is, I guess, really important that people, both the governments at the federal, provincial, and municipal level, and just general public, are aware of how severe this crisis is facing the restaurant industry. As has been stated, I mean, over a majority of restaurants could close in as little as 3 months due to the dire nature of the economy as a result of COVID. It's really a kind of a wake-up call to folks out there. And just because patios seem full, for instance, at the moment, doesn't mean that a lot of folks that have patios out there are really doing well. In fact, that's going to disappear quite quickly when the weather changes, of course. We may see another surge in the pandemic, et cetera. And already you're in an industry with razor-thin margins. So businesses like ours, I mean, we feel it too. We're lucky that as a pizza delivery business that we deliver a lot of pizza to people. We've seen, some fortunate uptake there. But our walk-in business is down, and sports bars, et cetera. Any other dine-in centered venue is really, even pre-COVID, operating on very thin margins with high fixed costs, high rents, high labor costs, et cetera. So the restaurant industry, I mean, really collectively, I think it's about 1.2 million jobs it represents in Canada, but over 100,000 locations. I mean, every restaurant you see is really a cornerstone of the community. And so many of them are struggling so much that we really need more continued help from the government side until things get better. But more importantly, getting also people out there just to eat meals, go out to your favorite place to grab a beer or order in pizza or a burger or something for delivery, and just to support these businesses in this tough time.
Yeah, when I think about a company like yours, the fact that we think, it's a pandemic, people are still ordering pizza, but you talk about the walk-in traffic. I mean, pizza was where in high school we went every single day to grab our slice for lunch. But I think about the sports stadiums too. You have a presence in a lot of places that just aren't going to come back to normal anytime soon.
That's right. I mean, if you look what's going on, there's just so much uncertainty out there. And I think we're talking really, certainly months at a minimum for our economy, and potentially even, more than a year or two. I mean, what we have to see. And I think the industry has been very quick to take various precautions, protective equipment, et cetera. In our case, contactless delivery for customers. You don't need to see anyone, a tamper-proof box, things like that. But many restaurants out there, whether it's a patio or sports bar, they've also adapted very quickly. And I think one message is that it's also very safe to go out to see somewhere, to your favorite takeout place, or order in for delivery, what have you. But it's going to be a long run. And I think, the industry itself puts in about $31 billion, I think it is, into the GDP every year. And it's $30 billion of wages as well, a huge source of employment. And during the pandemic, it was 800,000 jobs were lost. It's even if some of those were temporary, out of 1.2 million, that's a huge impact. So really, it's critical that as the economy comes back, this is a really key fixture in the economy and everyone's local communities. So we really need Canadians and various levels of government to make sure they're doing everything they can to help bring that back, among other sectors as well.
Now, Paul, when it comes to the government, of course, the approach thus far from the Trudeau government, when they've been asked about specific supports for industries, they said, well, we have the CERB program, we have the wage subsidy program, sort of the one size trying to fit all different kinds of business. But as they themselves say, they're going to come out with a throne speech near the end of September. They're going to have a reboot and a plan for moving forward. Do they need at this point to get industry specific?
Well, I think they really do. And I mean, for restaurants in particular, there's lots of people that need help out there. And by the way, restaurateurs, as I'm sure you and everyone at home realizes, they're not typically folks that have their hand out asking for government help. We're talking about entrepreneurs, business people that are used to basically, getting their revenues going and generating a profit at the end of the day if they can. But given the situation here, it's just so urgent that these programs that have been helpful, by the way, I mean, the CERB has been helpful, the wage subsidy pivot is important to have an incentive to get people back to work. Because the CERB benefit ends up actually being a disincentive for some folks, even though to go back to work, even though it has been helpful. So the wage subsidy side, we've just set as an industry with the Chamber and Restaurants Canada, say, look, let's have more of a sliding scale model so that as businesses get better, hey, less. But if you're really in dire straits, some restaurants, they really need more help. And same with things on a provincial level, like CECRA, the commercial rent relief programs. We really need more assistance there as an industry to, again, help bring it back on its feet, really. Otherwise, the consequences are just, it's going to be sort of a really negative cascading effect if we're not careful. So I think as things start to recover, there's certainly been a lot of that money that has already been provided to this industry and others, been very helpful. And some people say, look, the government's already given out so much. I mean, look at the levels of the deficits. It's concerning to everyone. But for something like the restaurant industry that puts in over $30 billion a year into the economy, that has a pretty good payout ratio, right? I mean, if there's aid that comes exceeding that by, who knows, say 2 or 3 times, let's say, even then, within 2, 3, 4 years, it would be more than a successful return there, an attractive return. So I think it's a good investment for the governments at any level, whether it's a break on excise tax increases at municipal level, regulatory breaks, just less red tape, etc. Doesn't all have to be out of the government budgets, because I think there's obviously pressure there. But I think as there is that need to get the economy back, some more extension of these helping programs, and more specifically designed to help business as well, is important. I think they've had the right intention so far, but maybe not been designed with a sustained trouble in mind here. So I think if they're tailored a little more, it seems like the levels of government are now listening more to the business community, saying, we can help design these programs, whether it's commercial rent relief loans or other related sources of relief or deferral or of tax and things like that, just until things get better. And I think it's just such a key part of our economy overall and our local communities that I don't think some Canadians quite realize how dire the situation is. And I think that via this campaign, we're really trying to make our voices heard louder with the Let's Eat campaign. And hopefully people do hear and take serious note of how important this is to the whole economy.
Paul, thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for having me, Greg.
Paul Goddard is CEO of Pizza.